King Jaren learned of Ronan's confession, he was worried. He had always wanted the best for his daughter, and while he knew that Ronan was a good man, he was also aware of the dangers that came with such an unconventional choice. "Celine," the king said, his voice filled with concern, "you must think carefully. Your future is not just about love. It's about security and stability. I want you to be happy, but I also want to make sure you are safe." Celine felt torn. She understood her father's worries, but she couldn't deny the love she felt for Ronan. He was kind, hardworking, and honest. Was that not enough? The day of the grand feast had arrived, and the palace was filled with excitement. It was to be a celebration of the harvest, an event that would bring together all the important people of the kingdom, including Ronan. The king had invited him, though he still had reservations. He hoped that this event would help his daughter make a decision, and he feared that Ronan, with his humble background, might not fit in. Princess Celine was anxious. She had always enjoyed these feasts as a young girl, but now it felt different. She knew that today she would be asked to make a choice that would shape her future forever. The kingdom expected her to marry a man of wealth, someone who could help rule the land. But her heart was with Ronan. As she entered the grand hall of the palace, she was dressed in a beautiful gown made of deep blue silk, her golden hair shining under the lights of the chandeliers. The room was filled with laughter and music, the air thick with the smell of roasted meats and fresh fruits. It was a celebration, but to Celine, it felt more like a test. At the feast, men surrounded her, all trying to win her attention. Some spoke of their noble families. Others boasted about their wealth and lands. They were polished and refined, each one trying to impress her with their fine clothes and expensive gifts. Celine could see through their efforts. They weren't speaking from the heart. They were speaking from their status. Among them was Lady Mirella's suitor, a wealthy noble who had long been seen as a good match for the princess. He was charming and courteous, but Celine couldn't help but feel that he was nothing more than another pawn in a game of power. She excused herself from his company, feeling a weight on her shoulders. Across the room, she spotted Ronan. He was standing quietly by the far wall, looking out of place among the rich men and women. He didn't belong in this world of luxury, and yet Celine could see how much he had to offer. His honesty, his kindness, his hard work, those were the things that mattered to her. Ronan looked up and met her eyes, his expression soft and understanding. Celine smiled at him, a smile that was both reassuring and filled with a deep sense of love. In that moment, she knew what she had to do. The choice was clear. hall had grown quiet as Celine stood, ready to make her decision. All eyes were on her, waiting for her to choose. The wealthy men looked at her with expectation, each one confident that they would be the one she picked. Even Lady Mirella watched closely, hoping the princess would follow the court's expectations. Celine stood before them all, feeling the weight of their gaze. She could feel the tension in the air, but her heart was calm. She wasn't looking for a life of luxury or power. She was looking for someone who would make her feel loved, respected, and valued for who she truly was. As she scanned the room, her eyes found Ronan. He was still standing in the corner, humble and patient, waiting quietly. There was no need for him to try to impress her. His actions, his heart, had already done that. He had shown her that it wasn't wealth or status that made a person great. It was their character. "Everyone," Celine began, her voice steady and clear, "I know that many of you have come here today to present your wealth, your titles, and your promises. But I have made my choice. I choose Ronan." The room fell silent. A few whispers could be heard, but they were quickly silenced. Ronan's eyes widened in surprise, and his heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected this. He had never thought of himself as a man who could stand beside the princess in this way. "I choose him," Celine continued, her eyes now fixed on Ronan. "Not because of his wealth or his title, but because of his heart. He has shown me what it means to love without expecting anything in return. He is honest, hardworking, and kind, and that is what matters most to me." A wave of murmurs spread through the room. Some were shocked, others disapproving. But Celine did not care. This was her choice, and it was the right one. She stepped toward Ronan, her eyes never leaving his. Ronan, still in disbelief, walked toward her slowly. When he reached her, he took her hand in his, and the entire room watched as they stood together, united in a choice that went against the expectations of the court. But for Celine, there was no turning back. She knew that this was the man she was meant to be with. King Jaren stood at the back of the hall, watching as his daughter made her choice. His heart was heavy with concern. He had always wanted the best for her, and he had hoped she would choose someone who could help her rule the kingdom. But now, seeing the love in her eyes as she stood next to Ronan, he knew that he could not deny her heart. "Celine," the king said as he approached them, his voice filled with a mixture of surprise and worry. "Are you sure about this?" Celine nodded, her eyes bright with conviction. "Yes, father, I am sure. Ronan is the one I choose." King Jaren looked at Ronan, studying him carefully. He had heard about Ronan's honesty and work ethic, but he was still concerned. "You are a good man, Ronan, but the kingdom is not an easy place to rule. Are you prepared for the responsibility? Ronan, though nervous, stood tall. I may not have wealth or land, Your Majesty, but I have something that matters more. Loyalty, honesty, and a willingness to work for the good of the people. I will do everything in my power to support the princess and this kingdom. The king looked at Celine, and then at Ronan. After a long pause, he finally nodded. I see the love between you two. It is not what I had expected, but it is real. I will support your decision. Ronan knew that the road ahead would not be easy. He had the love of the princess, but now he had to prove himself worthy of her trust and her heart. He continued to work hard, showing the people of the kingdom his dedication. He helped those in need, volunteered for tasks around the kingdom, and always kept his word. Slowly, he began to gain the respect of the people, and even the court began to see his worth. King Jaren, while still worried about Ronan's lack of noble status, started to see the strength of his character. He saw that Ronan was not just a merchant. He was a man who could lead with integrity and humility. Over time, the king grew to accept Ronan, not as a man of wealth, but as a man of value. Celine and Ronan worked together, learning from each other and growing stronger in their roles. They ruled with kindness and fairness, and the kingdom began to flourish. People respected them for their wisdom and their ability to listen, not for their titles or riches. Years passed, and the kingdom continued to thrive under the rule of Ronan and Princess Celine. The people loved them, not because of their wealth, but because they were genuine and cared about the well-being of everyone in the kingdom. Ronan had proven himself to be a man of honor, and Celine had proven that love, not power, was the true foundation of a strong reign. Ronan and Celine had children of their own, and they taught them the values that had guided their lives: honesty, kindness, and the importance of hard work. They were not the richest family in the land, but they were the most loved. And that, in the end, was the greatest treasure of all. As the years went by, Ronan and Celine's love remained strong. They continued to rule the kingdom with wisdom and fairness, always putting the needs of their people first. Their children grew up with the same values, and the kingdom flourished as a place where kindness and honesty were the most important things. In the end, Ronan and Celine showed the world that true wealth comes not from gold or jewels, but from love, respect, and a good heart. The kingdom, once filled with wealth and power, was now filled with happiness and peace, all because of the choices that Ronan and Celine had made. And so, their story became one that was told for generations to come. The story of a young merchant and a beautiful princess who found true love, not in wealth, but in each other.